Call to order the meeting of the ASRB on Monday, November the 4th at 4:30 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Lindsay,
Present.
Vice Chair Comra,
Present.
Member Delgavio,
Present.
Member Middleman, Member Taft is noted absent.
Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Okay. Is there any member of the public in the room or online who wishes to make a statement on anything not on the agenda?
There are no raised hands online.
Right. I don't see anyone in the room getting up. No. Okay. Consent agenda. I think we have two items. The meetings from two previous meetings on the consent agenda.
That's correct.
So you just need a motion to.
Yeah, if there are no changes, you can make one motion to approve the consent.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have comment on those meeting minutes? Wishes to make a change?
No.
Did anyone read them?
Yes. Scan quickly.
Yes. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes. Second the motion?
Chair Lindsay,
Yes.
Vice Chair Comra,
Yes.
Member Delgavio, Member Middleman, and Member Taft is noted absent.
You. Okay. Moving on to the public hearing and our first agenda item, which is 506 Eastview Way.
Hello and thank you. I will be introducing the project at 506 Eastview Way for ASRB review. For this conceptual design / remodel review project, the applicant is proposing to construct, in addition, and remodel the main residence up to a complete rebuild and associated site improvements. There are no desk items at this time. So to give you a bit of a background on the property description, the property size is approximately 1.15 acres over 2 parcels. The homeowner owns both parcels. It's about 50,000 square feet and is in the suburban residential SR zoning district. And the residence actually borders the city of Redwood City on the right side. And the overall site gently slopes downward from an elevation of approximately 538 feet on the southern side to 508 feet on the northern side. And so the site also has a number of oak, eucalyptus, and acacia trees that are scattered throughout the property. The property also features existing concrete cinder block walls in the northeastern section of the site. The current and future proposed uses for the cinder blocks are not detailed and shall be described during formal design review. And the property also includes a 10-foot wide existing drainage and sewer easement that runs parallel to the north property line. Additionally, there is also a 50-foot wide PG&E utility easement that is adjacent to the southern property line that runs along the Eastview Way roadway. And so this is just the enlarged topographic survey. And so for the overall site plan, as you can see that going back to the topographic survey, the existing residence is irregular shape that has many corners and cuts along this main residence building footprint. And so the applicant is proposing that the main residence is to become more uniform in design and to look more of a rectangle. And so this is the overall site plan enlarged to show the main residence. And what's outlined in blue indicates the portions that are to be added to the existing main residence. And so this is the existing proposed basement plan, existing basement plan on the left side and the proposed basement plan on the right side. So this is the existing main floor plan, which is the upper story. And this is the proposed upper floor plan of the main residence. And You can see more of the extent of this extension of the main residence with the existing roof plan. You can see that it has this irregular design with many cuts and corners. And this proposed roof plan is proposed to be more rectangular in design. So this is the existing elevation for the front side. This is the proposed residence elevation for the front side. This is the existing residence elevation for the sides. This is the proposed elevations for the sides. This is for the rear side, this is for existing. And this is what is proposed for the rear side. So the applicant has a few inspiration photos that they have collected. As you can see from the poster board in front of you, this is primarily an inspiration from Spanish style housing. And this is their proposed materials palette, which includes H bronze for the light fixtures, window style in bronze finish, and barrel roof tile clay with alternating colors, Spanish stucco finish in milky quartz, and wood for the corbels, lintels, posts, and doors. And so that concludes my presentation. Staff is happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also in attendance tonight. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for staff? I do. Can you go back to the lot and identify where these two parcels are roughly? Because I couldn't quite make it out on.
Sure. So as you can see here, the main residence is on this left bigger parcel, and this right parcel here is part of that 506 Eastview Way property. And it's just this much narrow strip of land that belongs to the homeowner.
That's undeveloped today. There's,
Correct.
all right. Because there's a boundary with Redwood City, does Redwood City have any input or say in, on the development of this property?
Not the city itself, although all property owners, regardless of jurisdiction, within 300 feet are notified. So any member of the public could show up and provide input on the project.
Okay, got it. Thank you. There was something else. No, that was it. All right. We'll close that and invite the applicant to make a presentation if you wish.
Good afternoon. My name is Veronique Garcia, and I'm the applicant and designer of the project. To tell you a little more about how we arrived to the proposed design, one of the main goals of the owner was to convert the existing carport into a two-car garage. And by doing that, we couldn't keep the existing setback of 36 feet right now. We had to change the setback to 50 feet. So this forced us to relocate the garage, which was more an extended project scope that we were anticipating. But in the meantime, it allowed us to add a front porch and have the main entrance, the feature when you come upon the property. Because right now, the main entrance is on the left side in this area. So right now, more or less, when you arrive in the property, you arrive into the carport. By doing the relocation and the addition, we really try to minimize the impact on the existing terrain, as well as the grading. And I hope you like the design, and if you have any more questions for me or for the owner, Angela Pietro, present here as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have questions? Yeah.
I just have one question. It sounds like the neighbors were notified. of the project, but did you do any neighborhood outreach? Did you talk to the neighbors, show them the plans, get their feedback?
I talked to a few of the neighbors and they were, all.
Okay, so let's use the.
Sure. I have quiet voice. I talked to a few of the neighbors and they were all in support of the project and said that they would write letters or show up. So I haven't heard any opposition so far. Sure.
I just have one.
Sure.
Fences,
Mhm.
all the fences on the property existing?
No, the fence is new. 'Cause the old fence was not secure and I had to keep my dog in, so I put in a new fence. They told me I did not need a permit for that, so I'm hoping that's okay.
Technically, a permit is required, but we can wrap that into this process.
Okay, okay. Anything else?
You received bad information.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, question for you, Kiego. With regard to the 17-foot height restriction, I noticed that the top high point of the ridge is currently measured at 17.7 or 17.5. It's 17.
Yeah, 17.7.
That would just get noted in formal and you would seek an adjustment on that? Or because.
They can have a taller building. It's the main residence, but the only thing we would need to double check is if it affects the setback in any way. But usually if it's just that much taller, the way the roof line goes, it's probably going to be set back far enough, meeting the height limit. So we can
Got
look at that closer.
All right, yeah. All right, thanks. Okay, good. No other questions from me. Any others? Oh, actually, no, I do take that back. I want to make a comment on the stucco. We generally give guidance to avoid very bright white. We tend to look for something that's a little off-white. I don't know without a real sample of what milky quartz looks like exactly. Hard to gauge,
It
but
would definitely be a soft.
yeah,
Spanish green.
It won't be bright white.
okay. Just want to avoid a
Yes.
stark white stucco. Yeah, with regard,
Sorry, I wanted to add something. All the material also now will meet the wildland urban interface, meaning that stucco to be all fire rated and so a big improvement right now because the house is all made of wood, so something I
Yeah.
forgot to.
thank you. No other comments from me on materials. Anyone else?
No, I actually think that I like the materials. I mean, normally we go for wanting a more muted tone on the color of the house. But it's not on a scenic corridor or anything, so. I mean, yeah, if it's not bright white, that's great. The other thing is I like what you've done is change the entryway. I always like a very nice curb appeal. And right now you really don't have a curb appeal. So to do that, I think is quite
There's no
beneficial.
I think the colors look true to Spanish style that you're trying to create here, and I think you've done a nice job of putting together the organic finishes with the copper and the barrel tile roof. I think it's really attractive. We haven't seen something Spanish style for a long time.
For a
We're
long time,
seeing-
it's very nice.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Anything else?
I guess the one question I had, have you thought about how solar might fit on the site in the future? You know, with considering the Spanish style tile roof, you know, how we want to put it on the roof.
I haven't recovered from my last solar project, but I
Fair
will
enough.
consider it.
So there will be certain requirements to meet minimum standards for the building code. There, especially if you're doing a new roof, it's easier at that time with a tile roof. You know, you can integrate it better into it as opposed to breaking up existing tile. So if that's the case, they would work that into their building construction plans. Otherwise, they could look at something that is ground mounted.
It is a requirement.
Yeah, and I don't know all the specifics of building code requirements, but yeah, definitely for new buildings, this one isn't maybe not quite going to be a new building, but there may be certain requirements and they'll have to follow those if necessary.
Yeah, as in what you wanted. Yeah, it's a problem.
I don't know how you attach them to the tile, but
Attach it before the.
Yeah, you build around it. The building across the street did it after the fact, but they did do it.
I'm just curious when it says up to a complete rebuild.
So that's the language that we use in the planning department. So we've had enough experiences in which we've looked at buildings that will have a significant remodel, and that we want to notice it this way in the event the applicant gets into the building and just finds out, what's left, might have dry rot or anything like that. And so that way, what we're doing is we're trying to notify the public that, hey, there's a chance if it gets into the building permit stage, the applicant realizes they actually have to take the whole building down. We have noticed it that way. So the applicant may do their best to save any piece of the building, that's commended. But if they need to, we did properly notice it.
Is there block walls in the future? Is there a plan?
So yeah,
And I'm sorry, could you please
sorry.
speak? Sorry, just because we're recording the meeting.
So they were just there when Angela bought the house, and the idea is maybe in the future when she can do the landscaping, how we can reuse them in the landscaping, hopefully, yeah.
yeah, so not using the remodel, then they just get rid of them.
Or maybe they can be used inside the remodel, who knows, yeah.
I just haven't hauled them up the hill yet. They're heavy.
Another question for staff, is it a requirement as part of this that the two parcels be merged?
It's possible. That's something that we're going to look at closer at the formal design review stage. I'll do a deeper dive into the Tuttle report. They may need to formally merge the properties. It's not a significant issue. It's more of a technical exercise that they'll have to do with legal description stamped by a surveyor, and then we can get that stuff recorded. But it's something at the formal review level we will be looking at closer.
All right. Any more questions or comments?
I just, you haven't gotten to the point of landscaping for formal review or fencing or gates. I would just request that you keep within the guidelines of the town for the type of fencing that we approve and the gates, that sort of thing. Just be aware of what the town's guidelines are according to that fencing. Gates.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Does anyone on the board feel strongly that they wish to see this project come back for formal?
It was awesome. Yeah, it seems like it's in the neighborhood and outside of being brand new.
Okay. I think you have the making of the motion. Most of what you've just said.
So the story poles have not been installed. And so there's a couple options. One is, you noted, they could come back to ASRB for formal design review, at which time story poles would be required. On the other hand, we've seen this in the past with other projects, conceptual level, that do not have significant concerns about the project. And what we can do, and also just for an explanation to the applicant, is that we can continue this conceptual design review. You can install story poles. You bring it back to the ASRB on the consent agenda, meaning they don't have to look at it unless now people have new comments based on viewing the story poles. And at that time, if the ASRB so directs tonight, could have staff complete the formal design review. So it's just a matter of getting your story poles installed. We putting you back on an agenda. If it's no comments, it just gets passed at that evening. Otherwise, the other option is you don't put story poles up at the conceptual level, and then you have to come back to ASRB for formal design review, as opposed to just doing it with staff. So we can work on you and talk to you more about that option, and how that works out. So if the ASRB is so inclined, they could continue this item with the allowance for applicant to install story poles with the intent of coming back on the consent agenda to forward the project to staff for formal design review.
So, all of that is a way of saying the story poles are a requirement to get to.
They are required at some point, and so they're either done at this stage and allow staff to do formal design review, or they just come back to the full board with another hearing and have story poles installed at that time. It potentially is. Sure.
If there is still resistance that
Yeah, so what would happen is they would install story poles and then we put it on the consent agenda. And at that time, any member of the public or the ASRB, if there's any concern, especially now after seeing story poles, and those items are raised, it could be discussed at that time. If there are no concerns, it could just be passed on consent. Yes. Yep.
Just, I don't think we've called for public comment on this item.
Oh, thank you.
We do have a number of people online. All right, so with that, then let's call for public comment. Assuming everyone's online.
So there's 2 people online, Dad's iPad and iPad number 8. If either of you have any comments, please virtually raise your hand. No hands are raised.
Nope. Okay. Close public comment. We've had board discussion. So, in terms of motions, there's been very little feedback. Comment on stucco color. Generally, commendations on remaining within the current footprint.
Mhm.
Minimal impact to the site.
Yeah, the only additional comment was that when moving to formal design review to include any fencing and gates and ensure they are consistent with the residential design guidelines.
Right. But as a precursor to that, I think there is support within the board to continue this to when story poles are installed to come back, assuming the item will be on the consent agenda.
Yes.
Okay. That's my motion. I'll preface that by saying I move that.
I second that.
Agreed.
Chair Lindsay,
Yes.
Vice Chair Comra,
Yes.
Member Delgavio,
Yes.
and Member Middleman.
Yeah.
Member Taft is noted absent.
Thank you.
And so we'll be in touch and you'll get a letter within the next day or 2, and we can also talk about the next steps to complete the process.
No director's report, no other agenda items.
No, I'll just note, I don't know the last time we met, if I mentioned just with the Kenyatta Corners project, that went to the council on October 22nd, and that was had a lot of public input on both sides, and it was continued. There's some more information that the council is looking for, and continue the item to December, since there are no council meetings in November due to the election. And so they continue, I believe it's December 10th. And then the only other thing I note, I think I mentioned in the last meeting, maybe not, on November 6th, this upcoming Wednesday, the Planning Commission will be looking at the ADU standards. Right now, the town is very focused on a few things that are outlined in the housing element. And the town attorney is very keen on making sure that we focus on those items and get those moving forward per the housing element deadlines. Whereas we, on the immediate heels of that, we are working on other changes for ADU considerations and hoping to bring that to those other concepts and things to discuss to the planning commission in December.
Did have. I think.
It's a good question. I'm not sure. Maybe there's grants or something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, I can touch base with the town manager, see if there's anything along those lines. I don't know the storefronts. They're probably similar in size. I'm not sure.
Sorry. Documentation for that ADU and junior ADU, is that readily
Yes,
discoverable online?
yes, sorry. It's all on the agenda for Wednesday night's meeting. Yeah, for our planning commission.
It seemed like for the larger lots,
The concept is if that you're going to have 4, then one of them needs to be a JADU.
right, that seems at odds with the hillside lots. Where building smaller, i.e., we're gonna have more of the units, but
A JADU is just part of the main residence, so it wouldn't increase the size of the main residence. It would just be a portion of the main residence to be used as a, right,
really it's 380 plus.
right. So it'd be the main residence with 4 additional units.
Got one house. They have a
It's possible. I don't, they could be allowed, so I'm not, it's possible that happens.
Yeah, just.
Yeah. Not a house.
Okay, with that, I'm going to bring the meeting to a close at 4:56 PM. Record time.